Last Tuesday, do you remember, Valentine's Day, we did something a bit special, didn't we, here on the show? We sent Grace with a violin and a violinist onto a bus to serenade bus passengers. Isn't this
So we've got a violinist who's going to play a few tunes. Is that all right?
As long as you don't fall over.
It was a beautiful moment. Check out some of the videos that we posted from Valentine's Day. But I'll be honest with you, we were a little bit cautious because we weren't sure if the bus would actually turn up as planned. We went to the BBC Radio Lincolnshire bus stop. It says BBC Radio Lincolnshire bus stop on it, so it's the official BBC Radio Lincolnshire bus stop outside here, to catch the number 7. And it's like, because there's been so many cancellations recently with bus driver shortages and the like, it was like, well, is the bus going to actually arrive? And there have been real issues with buses. We've been talking about this for, 18 months or so now, since after the pandemic, with almost daily cancellations. We've got more cancellations from Stagecoach today as well. And buses, they are really a lifeline, aren't they? You know, whether it's getting to work, getting to school, going to the shops, visiting friends. Well, new figures show that our bus network, not just in Lincolnshire, but around the country, is actually shrinking. In almost every region in England, the number of miles buses are operating across has been reduced. And it's a real concern. Alison Edwards is Director of Policy at the Confederation of Passenger Transport, that represent bus companies across the UK. Alison, morning. What's the issues then? What's the problems here?
Good morning. Well, leading up to the pandemic, we've got the backdrop of a real terms decline in public funding for buses over that decade. I think over the sort of 10 years leading up to the pandemic, we've seen a decline in kind of 26% of public funding going to bus services. And that's meant that local authority supported mileage in particular halved in that time. So that's a kind of really challenging environment to operate in. Then we've had the pandemic, and that, you know, we're still kind of working to bring passengers back to bus since the pandemic. There are some areas where we're seeing quite strong comeback now, like sort of around leisure, but obviously with people working from home and still some online shopping and things, that there was a little bit of a lag there, and we need to kind of bring passengers back who have got the older passengers that have got bus passes. We need to encourage them back. And then, of course, there's sort of spiralling costs that everyone across the country is feeling. It's being felt by the industry as well. So a lot of things coming together to make it quite a tough environment out there at the moment.
Of course, we've had this bus recovery grant, but that's going to run out in a few weeks, isn't it? So will that be a further issue? Could that mean even fewer buses running?
Well, the good news is that before the weekend, the government announced a further extension to the bus recovery grant. So that now runs to the end of June. And that's really good news, because that should help us to protect some vital services for passengers. Because as you say, they're an absolute lifeline to the people in the communities they serve. But what that is till the end of June. And what we do need to then use that time for is to work together to look at a longer term sustainable funding settlement for buses, which really recognises and unlocks the economic and social and environmental benefits of bus, enables local authorities and operators to really plan long-term investment and to have the confidence there to really invest in buses.
We spoke earlier with the councillor who's kind of in charge of transport here in Lincolnshire. He was suggesting that maybe it's time to rip up the traditional bus timetable and to have this kind of bus on demand service instead. You almost call them up and they'll come and pick you up, kind of thing. Is that the future, do you think?
Well, I think it's a really interesting idea, and I think that there are places where that can be the way to go. It won't be the solution everywhere, but I think that in particular in rural areas where your population densities are lower, the distances you're having to travel between stops is longer, we do need to look at new and imaginative ways of providing bus services that works both for passengers and for local authorities and is affordable. And demand responsive transport is one option that is worth looking at.
What else? What else needs to happen then to stop this decline? What would you like to see happen?
Well, what I would, as well as this kind of long-term funding settlement that really recognises how important buses are, what I would like to see is local authorities and operators across the country last year worked on bus service improvement plans to bid for funding from government to really improve the bus services in their local areas with local measures. Now, some authorities got given funding to take those forwards, but only a few. There's still kind of 60% of local authorities weren't successful in securing money to deliver their plans. And I'd like to really see that rolled out across the country so that all passengers, no matter where they live, get to benefit from improved services in their area.
All right. Alison, thanks for joining us. Alison Edwards, Director of Policy at the Confederation of Passenger Transport, which represents bus companies across the UK.